Hey friends, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel, and the most talked about guitars for the past couple of months have been without a doubt the Trump guitars. The Trump guitars were launched back in November as the only guitar officially endorsed by Donald Trump. And of course, when the news first broke, everybody went out of their minds. Some people loved it, some people hated it, and almost immediately Trump guitars got into legal trouble with Gibson. Gibson issued a cease and desist letter to Trump guitars claiming that they infringed upon their intellectual property rights. Now, so far, nothing seems to have really come from the legal kerfluffle with Gibson. Trump guitars changed a few things on their website, but not much else has happened. But now we are at the point where the people that ordered the guitars when they were first launched have received the guitars, and fortunately, one of those early buyers has been generous enough to loan me this guitar right here. This is not only one of the American Eagle Trump guitars, but as you can see, this is one of the ones that was autographed by Donald Trump. This guitar sells for $11,500 because it's autographed. Now guys, we are going to do a deep dive on this guitar here, see if we can answer a lot of the burning questions about it. But before we go on, guys, I always have to put in my political disclaimer on these Trump guitars videos. I am talking purely about the guitars in this video. I'm not talking about Donald Trump as a person or a president. I'm not making any political statements or endorsements. As always, you're welcome to argue amongst yourselves down in the comment section below. But in this video, I am just talking about the instrument itself here. Okay, now I mentioned the price of this guitar, which is quite high, $11,500 for the autographed guitar, and there are only 275 of these autographed guitars. This one here is number 128. The autographed ones are that high price of $11,500, but the non-autographed guitar, the same guitar, is being sold for $1,500. So the autograph adds $10,000 to the cost of the guitar. Now they also have some acoustic versions of these guitars which are slightly less expensive, and then there are some other guitars which are more like pre-order guitars, the presidential series of guitars that are going to be coming out later on. Okay, but if you guys are staying up on this, you probably know all that stuff already. So let's get into this guitar. I finally have one of these guitars right here. So just to start with, and I'm going to do measurements and weights and specs and everything, but just to start with, guys, just the overall quality and feel of the guitar. It's a good guitar. I mean, it's not, the big question, right, is like, is it worth $1,500? Never mind the signature and all that stuff. Well, a $1,500 guitar for this style of guitar would be like a really nice, ESP E2 or a really nice Schecter. There are guitars like that are in that $1,500 price range. This guitar does not compare very well to other guitars that cost that same amount of money. And again, it's not that this is a bad guitar, it's just there's nothing, as the instrument goes and the hardware and the specs, there's nothing really that special about it that really justifies that price. All of the hardware is very generic stuff. It's totally functional, and I'll play the guitar some more in a little bit here. So, the tuners work fine, but these are not any sort of name brand tuners. It's all very generic stuff. Same with the bridge and so forth, and the pickups. Now, I very carefully lifted out one of these pickups. I'll give you a close-up here of that. You can see that there's a J stamped on the underside of the pickup. Maybe somebody out there can help me identify if there's a particular manufacturer that makes these pickups. Now, one thing to notice here is that pickups are wax potted. So that means they've been dipped in wax, and that eliminates or helps greatly reduce feedback problems with the guitar. And so even though these pickups are probably generic off-the-shelf parts, they have gone that extra step and wax potted them. Now let's take a closer look at the fretboard here and the Make America Great Again inlay on here. Now the first thing I want to point out is that these letters, this is a real inlay. It is actually inlaid into the fretboard. These are not stickers. One thing which isn't so great about the inlay is Make America Great Again. On America, the I in America lines up almost exactly with one of the frets, and so it doesn't give very much space to see the I in America there, right? So, you know, I wish they could have just shifted it all a little bit one direction, or, you know, just, I don't know, shift maybe the last 3 letters of America over or something like that, just so you can see all the letters really easily. And it's not just this guitar. I've seen photographs of other guitars with the inlay, and they're all like that. Now, as far as the construction of the neck, I took some measurements. It's a 43 millimeter nut. It's a 21 millimeter thickness of the neck here, so a fairly thin neck, which is nice. And also there's a scarf joint right here, so it's 2 pieces of wood which are glued together to make the neck. Now sometimes people criticize scarf joints, but that actually makes the neck stronger. So you don't have to worry too much about the classic problem with a Gibson style guitar which doesn't use a scarf joint, and you can drop the neck and break it very easily. This is going to be pretty durable. As it says on the listing, the fretboard is made of rosewood, and to me it looks like it's a dyed rosewood. It's not naturally this dark, and that's something that's very common on guitars, especially less expensive ones, to dye or stain the woods a particular way to make them more contrasty or look better. It's 22 frets on the fretboard, and these are fairly standard medium-sized frets, nothing really too special about them. The fret ends are done fine. Again, this is, you know, it's not like the rounded ball-end frets or anything like that we're seeing on some of these really nicely done import-style guitars, but these are just kind of very traditional fret ends. And, you know, there's no sharp edges or anything like that. And the other thing that I wanted to do here is I've got a fret rocker, so I'm just going to go along here. I'm just checking if there's any high frets here, making sure these are leveled nicely here. And yeah, as I'm going through here, oh, something, is that something? Okay, maybe the 8th fret is a little bit high. It's very minor. Yeah. Let's check these higher ones here. No, it's pretty good. Yeah, so the fret leveling is actually pretty good. And again, in just a minute, I'll get into some more playing on the guitar, and we can make sure there's no dead frets or anything like that. But so far, the overall construction looks pretty good. Now, like I said earlier, this is not my guitar. Somebody loaned me this for the video, so I'm trying to be very careful with what I do, the inspections I do with the guitar and everything. I showed you guys the pickup, right? But the other thing I very carefully took a look at is I popped open these back cavities, and there's a couple things in here that are pretty interesting. Here's the back control cavity. Now, one thing there is that there's no shielding on the inside of the control cavity. So to me, that's a giveaway that it's not a very expensive guitar, or not a very high quality guitar in terms of the manufacturing. At the very least, there should be some kind of like paint on shielding or something like that. And there's really nothing at all inside the control cavity there to keep out unwanted interference and so forth. The other thing is take a close look at these pots, the potentiometers inside there. This is the volume and control pots, right? These are mini pots, so these are very small ones, and then there is a brand stamp on the back of these pots. Now, I looked this up, and these are made by a company called Ivalect, which is an Indian company. Now, to me, it's not necessarily a guarantee that the entire guitar is made in India, but certainly some of the components are. We can say that. And to me, it's possible that this guitar is made in India, because certainly a lot of guitars are manufactured in India. A lot of the Squier stuff is made in India. Even some of the Jackson guitars are made in India. And I actually think India is more likely than China, even though everybody's talking about, oh, these are probably made in China. I don't think this is a Chinese-made guitar. It just, the construction and the way they've put everything together, this just doesn't look like the stuff that's coming out of China today. But India honestly kind of makes a lot of sense for this guitar. Now, there's some other stuff I want to talk about. There's a few actual blemishes on this guitar. I'll give you guys some close-ups of that, but I want to do that after the demo. And then we'll talk more about the guitar and the playability and how it sounds and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the demo. But of course, guys, real quick, if you enjoy videos like this, checking out new guitars and staying up on all the latest news in the guitar universe, and you have not already subscribed, please consider subscribing right now. Okay, let's go ahead and plug this in. I'm going to use my Boss IR200 amp and cabinet simulator for the demo, and let's listen to how the Trump guitar sounds. Okay, so hopefully that answers the question, can you shred on a Trump guitar? So let me talk a little bit about the playability and the sound of this guitar. Playability-wise, it plays totally fine. I didn't run into any buzzing frets or anything like that. It's, the action is the action's a little bit high, but it could easily be brought down a little bit. The neck is quite comfortable. It has a gloss finish on the back of the neck, which personally I'm not a big fan of, but it's super, super common on a guitar like this. And there's no issue with getting around on the guitar. It has, a lot of people have talked about this, it has a bolt-on neck, which you don't typically find on a single-cut guitar like this, but the dimensions of the neck joint are almost exactly what you would expect to find on a guitar like this. It's just bolt-on rather than glued in a set neck, right? So I don't think the bolt-on neck really makes much difference, but certainly it's considered a less expensive way to make a guitar, and a lot of people have kind of complained about that. Now, I already mentioned the scarf joint. This is described as being a mahogany neck and body. I believe that's correct. This certainly looks like the grain of mahogany to me. Now, the body, it's a little hard to see this. I'll try and include some close-ups, but I can see, I think, one here and one here, two seams. So this is a three-piece mahogany body on this guitar. Now, as far as the sound goes, it's a little bit brighter than I was expecting. There's a more high end with these pickups than you would typically expect to find on a guitar of this style. Now, I do want to point out here that I have left the plastic film on top of the pickups because, you know, it's kind of part of the packaging. I want the owner of this guitar to be able to repackage it, you know, as if it hasn't been messed with or anything. So that can affect the tone slightly, but hopefully you guys understand why I haven't taken those off. The sound of the neck pickup in particular I actually really like. It's a really nice sounding pickup. Now, when I was tuning it, one of these tuners, I think it's the D string tuner here, it kind of sticks a little bit, like there's a certain point in the gearing where you get through where you kind of have to like push through it, right? So certainly these tuners are not the greatest. And that's kind of the overall vibe of the guitar. It's not a bad guitar, but it's also not a $1,500 guitar. I mean, it's not the kind of quality that you would expect if you're paying that much money. I think, like most people have already figured out, what it really comes down to is an acceptable guitar, but then it has the inlay and the graphics which make it a collector's item, right? I think that's really why people are buying these guitars. I don't think anybody's buying one of these guitars thinking like, oh, hey, that's an incredible value on a high quality instrument. I don't think that's what's motivating people to buy these guitars. I mean, they're buying them almost entirely for as a collector's item, or as a guitar that's just, you want to play a guitar that really stands out. This guitar is going to do it. Now, the other stuff, when I talked a little bit about this before the demo, the graphic itself looks very nice, up close. It's totally good. I mean, there's no like pixelation or anything like that. I'm sure that this is like almost like a wrap or a graphic that's applied, and then they spray the black fade on the outside. So that's all applied during the manufacturing of the guitar. Now let me give you guys a few close-ups here, because there are a few blemishes with the binding here. The binding on the surface of the body on this corner, also right below that on the side of the body. And then up here on the headstock, there's a couple things. Right on the corner of the headstock, it's like it's been sanded through the stain on the corner. And actually the stars around the 45, you can see that. One of the stars in particular is kind of missing some paint on there. So cosmetically, it certainly could be better. But all of these things are like, you have to look very closely to see these things. But again, it's just more kind of giveaways that it's not the kind of quality that you would normally expect when you're paying $1,000 or more for a guitar. I've looked at this guitar closely, and the only sort of branding that I could tie to any kind of country of origin was on the pots, on the potentiometers in the control cavity there, and that was with India. There's no, made in, there's none of that anywhere on this guitar. And there's really no reason why it wouldn't or couldn't be made in India. It's honestly a pretty likely choice if you're looking for, a short run manufacturing source for a guitar like this. It kind of makes sense. Now, all of this brings up an interesting question. So if you wanted to take this guitar and upgrade it, let's say to like Gibson specs, what would you do? Now, there's not too much you can really do about the bolt-on neck. There are ways to convert a bolt-on neck to a set neck, but it's quite a project. You could do that if you want to. But what else would you upgrade? Certainly, I would upgrade the tuners. I would do a little bit of work on the frets, just to make the corners a little bit more comfortable. Maybe some work on the nut. Certainly, I think the pickups could be upgraded. Maybe maybe you could upgrade the wiring itself. Although I didn't have any issues, and You know, the knobs and the pots and everything, actually, they feel very smooth. They work fine. But yeah, just a general hardware upgrade. These strap buttons, I'm sure, the tuners, the hardware, the pickups, you know, and how much would that cost? Well, you know, really nice stuff. You know, it might cost you maybe $300 or $400 in parts that you could put into this guitar. And then you'd be getting rid of any playing or sound issues that you might run into with this guitar. But then it's also not original anymore. And so I'm not really sure which one is more valuable at this point. But yeah, what do you guys think about this guitar right here? Let me know down in the comment section below. And in particular, I know that there are some people watching out there that have also bought these guitars, whether it's an autographed guitar or just the regular one. What has your experience been like? What has the guitar seemed like to you? Did you have any problems with it? Is there anything different from this one? Let us know down in the comment section below. Guys, I gotta say, doing these Trump Guitars videos has been an incredible experience for me. I won't say if it was a good or bad experience, but people obviously have very, very strong opinions about these guitars. You know, an interesting piece of information that I didn't know about until somebody said it in the comments of one of the earlier Trump Guitars videos is that former President George Bush played guitar, the first Bush, not the second Bush. And so I've been doing some research into that. You know, what kind of guitar did he like to play? Did he ever have a signature guitar or something like that? It's going to be fascinating. Maybe at some point in the future I'll do a video about that as well. Okay guys, but there it is, the American Eagle Trump guitar. Let me know what you think about it. And big shout out, you know who you are, to the guy that let me borrow this for the video. Now I'm going to have links for everything I was talking about in this video down in the video description below. I'll have a link for, of course, the website if you want to read more about these, or a link for my Boss IR200 unit that I was using for the demo, and all of my social media and all that stuff. Guys, thanks a ton for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you soon.